Hey everybody, I'm Nafil Islam and welcome to this overview of Datalore. Datalore is a collaborative Jupyter environment for teams. In this example, we have a Jupyter notebook opened up and you can see that there are different kinds of cells. There are cells for Markdown and there are cells for code. You can see that in the Markdown cell, we have support for all kinds of formatting as well as LaTeX. Datalore also supports different kinds of visualizations like IPython widgets, for example. It also has support for all kinds of plotting libraries like matplotlib, for example, and it also has support for code cells. Otherwise, it wouldn't really be a JetBrains tool, now would it? In this example, you can see that I am importing something and I get the code completion for it. It's very similar to what you might expect in something like PyCharm. So stuff like code completion and code insight and automatic imports and things like that work. Furthermore, we also have documentation available. So in this example, we hover over figure and we get the documentation for the figure method. Going back to writing code, if you see this little light bulb, it means Datalore has a suggestion. So for example, you can optimize imports and that will get rid of imports that you're not using. But the suggestions are not just limited to that. You also have things like refactoring, renaming, all that good stuff that you expect from something like PyCharm. And finally, another thing about Datalore is that work is organized into sheets. So in this example, you can organize your work into different sheets and have access to them in a single notebook. Now let's talk about how environments work in Datalore. Every Datalore notebook has its own isolated environment. It has its own installed packages. For example, we have a bucket load of packages installed for this particular notebook. You can, of course, change the way in which packages are installed between pip and conda. For our enterprise offering, however, you can, of course, set up your own environment as a pre-set up environment that will be installed across your notebooks. So for example, here we have pip default and pip minimal. Pip default comes installed with a couple of packages. So if you go ahead and show packages, we can see that Boca, Boto, PySpark, SymPy, and others are installed. In the enterprise package, what this means is that you can have your own version of default installed packages that you can configure. Now, if you don't have a particular package installed, you can go ahead and go into the Explore tab, type in the package that you want. In this example, we are going to go ahead and type in SQL Alchemy, which is very popular for dealing with all kinds of SQL databases. And we can see that it is already installed. We can install a different version if we need to, or we can remove it, whatever we need to do. Going back into the Explore tab, we can search for something that we don't have. For example, Cartopy. We can go into Cartopy and we can see that it's not installed, and we can go ahead and click the install button if we wanted to install it. And lastly, if you want to install a package that is not public, it is in a particular repository, you can do that through repositories here, as long as it is an accessible Git repository that you have access to. Okay, let's talk about files. Datalore comes in with its own file manager for every single notebook. So every notebook can have its own set of files. We did this so that people who are using the notebook don't overpopulate the main file system. You can upload in all kinds of ways. You can upload a file, you can upload a folder, you can upload from URL. You can also just drag and drop something as well. And lastly, the best thing about this approach is that when you go to share a notebook, you are also sharing the associated files with those notebooks. How do you share notebooks? You click the big share button, you go over and copy the link, and you share it with whomever you want to share it with. You can also add people via email links as well. So in this case, we can go ahead and add and manage people over here. And we can say what kind of access they're going to have. So in this case, Nick can view and Igor can also view, but we can also add links for editing. Initially, I said Datalore is all about Jupyter notebooks for teams. So we're going to show you how to collaborate with your team members. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and share this notebook, giving that person edit access. So my friend Nick is going to join in. You can see that his name appears at the top. And once he starts editing things, his cursor will appear as well. So here I'm in a particular sheet and Nick is going to join me soon. And now that Nick is here, he can start typing away. So in this example, I can just get rid of the additional white space. Nick will probably change some figure dimensions where he is. And once that is complete, I can go ahead and recompute the cells that require recomputation. Now, Nick can also recompute any cell that he wants, and we will both be able to see the outputs of that recomputation. It is important to note here that all the computation costs are borne by my account because this is my notebook. So Nick has recomputed this cell again, and that cost me a lot of GPU credits. Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate that. So this is how collaboration in Datalore works. You invite people and you can invite as many people as you want, and they basically burn up all your CPU and GPU credits. But anyways, thank you so much, Nick, for joining me and demonstrating how collaboration works. Once Nick leaves, you will see that his cursor is no longer there. Okay, so now that we're done with all of this, let's go ahead and share our results. Now, when sharing your results, what you don't want to do is show off some of the code some of the time. So here you can go into any cell and hide input and hide output. You can also go into view and hide all inputs or hide all outputs. So I've gone ahead and hidden all the code inputs, and I am just going to go ahead and update my already published copy. And I'm just going to click on that static link. I'm going to open it, and that should open up the newly rendered static notebook. We can see that a lot of things are here in this notebook, but the code is not. So this is far more user-friendly for people who just want to view this notebook as a report and play around with it. We can also leave comments anywhere that we want to. The comment will show up as your username for other people to see as well. But the great thing about publishing your notebook in this way is that anybody can see it. So you can share this link with anybody and they don't need to have Datalore in order to enjoy the contents of this notebook. Another neat trick that you can use is embed code cells within a HTML document, for example, that allows you even more sharing options when it comes to your notebook. You also have a few other options when it comes to exporting. Exporting things from Datalore, you can export in all kinds of ways. You can export IPython notebooks, Python files, PDFs. There are multiple ways in which you can export different formats from Datalore. You can also navigate to different parts of the notebook using the table of contents. With that out of the way, let's talk about computation. When it comes to using computation inside of Datalore, you can go into kernel and you can use different kinds of machines. In this case, we have basic, large, and GPU available here. If you have an enterprise version of Datalore, you'll have more options here. Furthermore, if you are an enterprise customer, you also have the ability to limit the amount of GPU usage or credit usage on account and on notebooks as well. I'm going to switch over to a GPU machine, and that is going to restart the computation. This will take a little while, but all the packages that you have installed in your notebook will be reinstalled on this new machine. Okay, let's talk about workspaces. In this example, we have home as our main workspace. You can't really share this with anybody. You have workspaces that you own, and you have other workspaces. Workspaces that are shared with you that you don't own. This is an example of one such workspace. You can also change who has the ability to view or edit this workspace if the workspace owner has given you those permissions. Workspaces also have something that's quite interesting, which is called workspace files. What workspace files allow you to do is have common files that are shared across notebooks in a particular workspace. Workspace files can be uploaded to, downloaded from, and basically everything that you do with your normal notebook files, you can do with workspace files. Let's move on to talking about installing Datalore Enterprise. Datalore can be installed in two ways. One is to use Kubernetes, and you can install Datalore on a Kubernetes cluster, meaning that you can install it on pretty much anything. You can also install Datalore on AWS. The best way to learn how to do this is to go to our help page and take a look at the documentation on how the infrastructure works and how to set it up. Lastly, we also have support for inbuilt authentication. Datalore ships with JetBrains Hub that allows you to authenticate through multiple means, and you can learn more about that on the JetBrains Hub documentation as well. You can see all the auth modules that are available and what auth providers are supported. Now, we know that this can be a daunting task. Installing Datalore on Kubernetes or pretty much anywhere else can often be difficult. And so we can help you. You can schedule a demo for JetBrains Datalore anytime that is available on this scheduling application. And you can also reach out to us at datalore enterprise at jetbrains.com. You can also see that this is available on the website as well. And of course, if you just want to check out Datalore and all the cool things that it offers, you can just try the free cloud version. So with that, thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you soon.